I'm going to work through problem number 2 of the first quiz. So in this problem, you were given the density of copper is 8.96 grams per milliliter. And the question was, how can we convert this density to units of ton per barrel? Metric system, English system. Part of the rationale why I gave you this problem isn't just about density, it's about using dimensional analysis, using factor label. In the next chapters that we do, the material we're going to cover is going to have lots and lots of unit conversions. So in this case, we've got a unit that has, a value that has 2 units. So we have 8.96 grams per milliliter. Now, a mistake that several of you made was instead of writing this as grams per milliliter, you wrote it as grams times milliliter times to the negative first. Now, I say it's a mistake. It's not if you use it correctly. And what was happening was you were putting it up here, but you weren't recognizing that it was a negative exponent. Again, x to the minus 1 is 1 over x. If you do write it here as milliliter times to the negative first, you have to take that into consideration with every other unit that you use for canceling it, which is a little bit complicated. If you just draw it as grams per milliliter, you're fine. The result that messed most of you up, that made this mistake, was you inverted every other conversion related to volume. Now, for my setup, I'm not actually done yet. I have what I was given, 8.96 grams per milliliter. Draw out the grid, then, after the equal sign, put the unit of what you want. And in this case, ton per barrel, a unit of mass per a unit of volume. It is absolutely critical anytime you do this type of problem setup, put what you have here, put what you want there. In other words, the units are what drive your entire problem-solving exercise. If you don't put the unit of what you want at the end, how do you know you're done? Right? In other words, you're just throwing stuff in there. Always be systematic when you do this. That's the key. Be patient. If you try and do this a different way where you break it up into smaller parts, you can still get the correct answer, but you're more likely to make a mistake. Okay, so how do we solve this? Well, I gave you several conversion factors. I won't write them here because they're on your quiz. I gave you grams to pounds, pounds to tons, and liters to gallons, as well as gallons to barrels. And I'll put all those conversion factors on here. We have mass and volume. So pick one. You don't do them at the same time. I'm going to convert grams to tons first. So from the conversions you were given, 453.59 grams. By the way, it's understood that this is grams of copper, milliliters of copper. You can actually explicitly write that out. In this particular problem, you don't have to write it out that explicitly, but you could. So 453.59 grams is equivalent to 1 pound. Grams cancels. Now I'm in pounds, but I want tons, so we're not done yet, but we're on the right track. 2,000 pounds is 1 ton. This is an exact definition. So, and I wrote that out explicitly. So what that means is it has an infinite number of significant figures. Based on our significant figure rules, if I don't put a dot there, that should only be 1 significant figure. But for counting, for exact figures, it's infinite. And I wasn't going to hold significant figures against you for this particular problem. but just throwing that out there for when I do. So pounds cancel. Now we have tons. Well, you know what? That's what we want. So from a mass point of view, we're finished. We can start moving on to volume. We have per milliliter. Now tons per milliliter. We need tons per barrel. I gave you a conversion of liters to gallons, but this is milliliters. And that was intentional. I left out one unit conversion that you need. And that's because I expect you to know the metric system. 1 liter is 1,000 milliliters. Okay? Again, refresh your memory with that handout I gave. Kings have dungeons under dark castle moats. It's a ridiculous statement, but it's how I memorized it a very long time ago. So the metric system, I will expect you to know how to convert within the metric system from kilo down to milli. And then later on we'll actually pick up a few other conversions. But for right now, kilo to milli. So 1,000 milliliters, excuse me, is 1 liter. Then you can use 3.7854 liters is 1 gallon. Let's have a little more space. Okay. So liters cancel. Now I'm left in units per gallon, tons per gallon. Moving around more. Okay, so we want barrels to the -1, not gallons to the -1. So the last conversion I gave you was 42 gallons is 1 barrel. Well, gallons cancel. Look what I've done. I am now in units of ton per barrel. Every other unit has canceled out. Now you pick up your calculator and do the math. And when you do that, forgot the -1, you'll end up with 1.57 tons per barrel. Move this over just a tad to catch that. Okay, so 1.57 tons per barrel would be my final answer for this.